So maybe we should start by introducing ourselves. So I'll start down with Jessi.
Cool. Hi guys. That's it. Hi, I'm Jessi Nowack, also known as Nowacking online. For pony things, I'm known as the voice of Vinyl Scratch and a bunch of stuff like Epic Pie Time, Epic Whoop Time, Pony Rock Anthem, I'm Octavia, a bunch of stuff like that. I also was Gilda in Turnabout Storm, and I write for Alligator and the Tub Productions, which did Cupcake Time, Whoop Time, and all that good stuff. For other stuff, I was the voice of Izumi in the English dub of Queen's Blade Rebellion, if you like anime. I do Pokemon Bridged and Dark Swamp, and I've voiced a bunch of characters in that. And I'm Saris in Helsing Bridge by Team 4-Star, and Sasha in Attack on Titan Bridge by Team 4-Star. And that's all.
This is Michelle Creber. She's kind of a diva, so just mind.
She's right. Not part of that. My name is Gabriel Brown for Black Griffin Online, and I do music and animation and stuff. And as far as voice acting is concerned, I've done some voice acting on Epic Rage Time. I did Mr. Cake.
Yeah, and you're also in Dark Swamp.
I was in Dark Swamp, right? I was in Legos, right?
Yeah, and random business. Yes. And Businessman #1, which is your starring role, of course.
Peaches of Peaches. Why does it smell like peaches? Yeah. And then I know I've done some other stuff, but I can't remember it. It's like, whatever. But that's me. That's what I do.
Is there water in your cup there?
And Gabe's also a great animator. He's the creator of the Twilicious series, for those of you who know that. And a great singer. If you haven't heard of his stuff, check out his YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Like, comment, subscribe, Twitter, Tumblr.
Hello everyone, my name is Michelle Creber, and I'm the voice of Apple Bloom and singing voice of Apple Bloom on My Little Pony, and also the singing voice of Sweetie Belle. Aren't you gonna stay for brunch? And I play Alice on Martha Speaks, and I was the voice of Lucy on the new Charlie Brown series. And I've been on Dinosaur Train, and I've got a new series playing Wendy on the new generation of Peter Pan coming out soon. And yeah, a couple other stuff. So.
And lots of screen projects
yes.
too, movies and TV, whatever. My name's Monique Creber. I'm also known as Michelle's mom, driver, and manager and chauffeur. But I'm actually a singer and voice actor as well, and producer-director. I sang, for things that you might be related to, I sang on the Flim Flam Brothers song, the Heart Carol, at the Gala, and Smile song. And the At the Gala choir is actually a choir that I direct. And then I put together the vocal ensembles with Daniel to do those other songs as well. So those are some of the things that I've done relating to MLP. And and we got to guest on the last Bronies React video, which was a lot of fun. And yeah. And this is our, for Michelle and I, our 14th convention, mostly through the US. We did one at Buck in the UK in August.
It's our first one in Canada.
And our first one in Canada, yeah, because we were... Yeah, and we're from Vancouver, Canada. So we're really pleased and proud to be here. So apparently this is called Voice Acting 101, and information that you might want to know about getting involved in that industry, or maybe you just have general questions. We're pretty open to what you might find the most useful or interesting information. I know he's not on this panel. We apparently do have someone who's going to be, how are the questions? You've got a wireless and you're going to go up to people if they put their hands up? Okay, great. Do we want to have a lineup, or are you just going to walk towards people?
Lineup works, or I can rest people.
Whatever works.
Yeah, so maybe formal lineup, like I don't know, this side.
Well, if
Here.
you do, if he just goes to people, then they don't have to stand there the whole time. They can.
Okay, so if anyone has some questions, should we just go right in there, or just?
Yeah, what do you guys think?
I don't think.
That's true. Well, let's get a sense of how many people have questions at the moment. Some more we may get some, but if there's people all ready to go with questions, we might start with that and then expand as we see.
I have a good Fluttershy voice impression.
You too? Do you want to show it to us?
Hi, I'm Fluttershy.
You're 10, and do you live in this area?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you for doing that.
Oh, I like your costume. The eyes, it's good. Do you have your hand? Do you have your cliff up? Okay.
What's your advice for people trying to start up with their voice acting career, I guess?
That's the title of this panel. It's a good question. Getting your hoof in the door. Mom, you're.
Very appropriate person to have asked.
Should we go
Funny to have asked that.
Sure. Yeah, we'll just go down the line then. So getting just how to get started in it? Well, I think one of the things that a lot of people think about when they're thinking about voice acting is having a lot of voices, and having some choices with the type of voices that you can do is important. But what's more important is the second word of the title, which is the acting, voice acting, and having the ability to act well in those voices is what's actually more important. So getting experience as an actor, whether that be on stage or in film and TV or in workshops and training sessions, those kinds of things, that's what's really important, because you don't have the screen there or the stage to be able to show some emotion and some expression. Everything is just with your voice. There's no visual, there's no costumes, there's no hair and makeup, there's nothing. It's stripped down to your voice, so you really, really have to be good at emoting and conveying all the fine nuances with just your voice, and getting very comfortable at doing that, and getting that kind of experience and training is probably one of the most important things.
Yeah, it's always about being comfortable with your own voice, because it's about stepping out of your shell and giving a cartoon character, which usually has a lot of energy because you don't see the facial expressions, you just hear the voice. You really have to connect with the audience because they can't see your face. And on TV, you can read their facial expressions, and just it's a different type of. In voice acting, you have to express yourself more. You have to be willing to step out of your shell. Yeah.
And I think auditioning for stuff is good too. And there's stuff you can audition for in both the amateur and professional realms that's open to everybody online. It's good to, a demo reel is something good to start. Even something as simple as just cutting together a few voices on Audacity or something. It's a free program that's great for recording stuff and editing stuff together. And also, impressions, while they're good, you shouldn't do only impressions of other characters, because people want to hear something original, something unique that you came up with that's from you. And yeah, but with auditions, you can look for stuff on YouTube. They're holding auditions all the time online.
So another thing that really helps to gain experience is theater, because it's very similar. They can't see your face close up. You have to really act big so they can understand what you're talking about and what you're feeling. Jessi, you took all the good parts.
The most important thing is just to act. Really, just practice acting, act all the time, and read every day aloud, even if it's something small. Because it's all about practice. And I've been taking acting classes since I was 6, and it really, really helped with voice acting, because it's acting above anything else.
Hi. Oh, geez. I'm not really looking into getting into anything big. I just like doing fun voices because I'm into D&D and all those games. So
I've been working on one named Thunder.
and I've got another one that's on the higher end of the bell curve, which I'm not really sure I'd be able to pull off. I've been having a lot of trouble with it. But on that, So my two characters right now, Blunder, who's like this big hulking orc, if that's not obvious, and the other one, I'm going to try to do it, heaven forbid, but it's a little bit higher. And both of them are really hard to do for long periods of time, but mostly, like, how do you refine a voice? Because obviously, like you were saying, breadth, like a wide variety is important. So how do you kind of tweak out new voices, and like how do you discover that? Is it just like playing with your voice, or?
It really just came with time for me and practice, you know, and just try recording yourself. Audacity is free, it's also easy to use. Record yourself, because sometimes we don't realize what we actually sound like. And that seems like a silly thing, because you're always talking. I know what I sound like, yeah, but even me, if I were to record myself sometimes, I'm like, I sound like that? Wow, I'm amazing. But yeah, just listen to yourself and figure out what you want to change about your recording, or, you know, sometimes it's as easy as adding an accent to it. That sometimes just changes a character completely and it goes in a whole other direction or something like that. So,
for example, the first voice I did, Blunder, it kind of came from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the radio series. And I've tried to do it without the kind of British accent, and I can't. The voice just does not sound right.
If you can't do accents, that's totally fine. But for accents too, that's easy. If you want to learn accents, listen to accents. Easy as that.
I totally agree with everything on the recording. Something that also helps me, and is I really don't know how to describe it, but if you look in a mirror and kind of get an idea of the character, the voice sometimes that follows from it. And another good thing that, like, if you can't think of any new voices, try shaping your mouth weirdly when you talk.
Yeah.
And maybe shake your tongue like you're cleaning your teeth or something. Hopefully not, you have different characters.
Yeah, it's all about experimenting. There's nothing wrong, and there's nothing that's exactly right. Just what works for you and what you want for that specific character. Just play around with it, see what you like and what you don't. And it's all about fun too. You gotta have fun voice acting. And if you get frustrated and your voice doesn't sound the way you want it to sound, just keep trying. Figure out what that really sweet spot for your vocal.
Yeah, and recording is great.
Yeah, the recording is also great to take note and to catalog that voice, because a lot of times if you're working on multiple voices, you'll think, wait, what was that idea that I had for that one? And even like when Michelle goes in for a lot of auditions, sometimes things are not cast for many months after the audition happens, and so then they cast you, and the first thing you do is go back and think, I don't even remember what voice I used for that audition, but they play you a reference. So just having a reference, even for your own purposes, maybe give that voice a name or something just to remind yourself of what you came up with and that you can go back to. Because one of the most important things about the voices, as well as being able to stay in them and to return to them. So if you were going to do a recurring character, you can't just come up with a voice for that day that you can't access again later on down the line. So you have to be able to come back to it and that it's similar. Yeah, go ahead.
You have to be able, you have to be flexible with your voice. You be able to do the voice in all types of situations. For example, like Apple, if I could only do this very sweet voice and she couldn't be gritty, because sometimes she gets really annoyed or mad in some of the episodes, and if I wasn't able to do that, then I could get recast, because that's the most important thing in voice acting, is being able to do everything with your voice, especially if it's a recurring character. If it's just a one episode thing, you can probably get away with it. But
which goes back to what I was saying about the mirror thing. That actually helps you find your character, not just your voice. So you get an idea of, the voice will sometimes follow when you decide how you want your character to behave.
What kind of facial expressions they're making, and how they're physically coming together.
Because finding out studying your character is cool too, because like they said, how they would react in every single situation is important to know, because Epic One Time is in a very different vein than I Am Octavia. And when I Am Octavia, makes you want to cry and it's all sad and stuff, and I had to find out how Vinyl would sound heartbroken. While at One Time, I was like, Vinyl's really cool, just act cool.
You have a question?
Yes. I'm just wondering, how is
Maybe just use the mic so we can hear you, but just so everybody else can hear you. We were just asking also, and thank you for doing that, if everybody could stand when they ask the questions so that we can find you, although you're right in front, so we're good, but that's great if you can do that. Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering, how does one get into voice acting, really? Like, professionally, how does one able to...
Yeah, the thing that you need foremost to do it professionally on these kinds of series is an agent. And the agents, because what happens is that the productions, they go through usually casting services to put the cast together for a show. And then casting sends out what's called a breakdown to the various agencies, the professional registered agencies in any city. And the agencies then look at the breakdown, will give a description of the show, and then have a list of the various characters that they're trying to cast, and then a character description for each of those. And if they have an idea what that character sounds like already, etc., then and then they'll say too if they want it to be played by a man, a woman, a child, those kinds of things, and they'll ask for submissions. So then the agents will submit who they have on their roster that think that could do a good job of that audition, and casting will decide who they're going to bring in. The agents, just because they submit somebody doesn't mean that they will actually hear an audition from them. So the agents will then let you know if they were able to get you an appointment. You go in for your audition, and it's done that way. So having the agent is the most important thing. And just a quick note about agents, you really need to look for real, reputable, licensed agencies. There are, unfortunately, a lot of unscrupulous things around you. I'm sure you've heard the stories in the industry, but it's, there are agencies where they will play on people's dreams of getting involved in that type of career, and they'll scam you. That's right. A real agent does not charge you money. That's the first thing you need to know. They take you on their roster if they believe that they can get you work, and then they make a commission off of the work that they get, that you book. So they, any agency that says, it'll just cost you $2,000, sign up here, we'll get you some headshots done, that kind of thing, they're not real agents, unfortunately. And they may have some connections, they may not. Most of the time they're just a business who are, involved with trying to get people on their roster, but they don't actually have the proper affiliations to do anything with it after. So any agent that says it's going to cost you something is not legitimate. The only thing that you should have to pay for at all are your own headshots, but if you're doing any kind of work for just voice acting, you don't need headshots. But if you're doing anything that's visual, you need headshots. You do have to pay for those, but you should be able to choose who you want to do them, not go through who they say that you need to go through, and they're going to charge you a huge amount of money. So you do need to pay for that. You do need to pay for your own subscription on the digital things like Casting Workbook, which is the digital submission process that they use. That's your account, and that's something that's fairly inexpensive. I think it's like $40 right now for a basic account. So those things you have to pay for, but other than that, you should never have to pay an agent if they're a real agent.
And the other thing I was just...
Arts like theater and on-screen acting, but voice acting...
I haven't heard of it.
I know that... Yeah, I mean, I know several teachers that have schools and teach in different areas and stuff, but I don't know a specific college or university.
I think, and maybe this is what you were about to say, but I think doing some actual... Your bun is... It's a big bun. Talking about doing workshops and things like that directly with it.
A lot of times people who are professionals in the industry, both in casting and in actual voice work, will do workshops where they will basically teach. And it costs a bit of money, but they'll teach kind of industry tips and tricks. And that's also a good way to get connected with those people, because they'll also, like, if you stick that to them, they'll remember you, and then they'll, at some point they make them up. For this. And then
And that's actually probably far more valuable for that kind of direct training.
Not that you shouldn't go to college.
Yeah, no, exactly. But
It's also good to have a
looking for a direct correlation. Yeah.
It's just about to say, it's also good to have a backup plan. It's also good to have a backup plan if you haven't broken into the industry yet, because it's hard. It's sort of this, are you good?
She said it. I know.
It's kind of hard to break. It's like this. It's this world of voice acting, and you have to get into it. And then once you're into it, usually you know people around town, and they reference you.
It's networking.
Yeah. And so it's good to have a backup plan if you haven't really started up yet, and you're going into college. If you have something else like, I don't know.
I'm going to college for marketing.
You're gonna what? Like physics or something that you're interested in as well. I don't know. Like if you want to go to college for a couple of years. No, I mean, it's good if you just have some sort of backup plan, and it doesn't mean you necessarily have to go full time. My goodness,
Andrea
okay, such a klutz.
has a master's degree in mechanical engineering.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something new.
Yeah.
There's something over there.
I'm going to college for marketing, personally. I was thinking about going for acting, but it's really what you get from the college. Like, you don't get jobs just because you have a degree from a certain acting college. Basically, it's all the experience that you get from it, and that's what it good. Like, like workshops are good. I took my first voice acting workshop a couple months ago with Veronica Taylor. She was the original voice of Ash when 4Kids had it. And it's funny because there was a fan of ours in the class, and he recognized me and my friend, and that was fun. Yeah, oh my god. I just remembered that, sorry. But yeah, taking workshops is really cool. Like, I know, what's his name? Richard Horvitz. He does like Zim, Innovator Zim, Billy Manny. He's great, awesome dude. He offers really good class in California. If you're ever like in California for some reason for like a week and he happens to have a class, like just hit it up. Totally, I totally recommend it. I haven't taken it, but a lot of my friends have, and they really, really liked it.
Also, if you don't live in an area that's a really voice acting community, there are several teachers that do Skype calls. Like, I know Mom and Lee Tokar also.
Ellie Ray?
Ellie Ray, yes.
Crispin Freeman does
Be a
really
voice
good.
actor.
There's
Get
several.
on the stage. No.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, we do Skype training sessions.
See?
So you can also do it that way if you don't live in an area where there's coaches. I mean, if you're in Toronto, you're going to find coaches here for sure. But if you're in a smaller community, you can do Skype training sessions.
If you live in Greenland,
We have
the Skype really works. Yeah.
question over there. Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for the question.
You're filming a wall.
Yeah,
What?
I think those are really the best way to get involved in that.
Drama next semester.
Good.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that can help.
Yeah, and actually,
Getting
I
the
think
confidence.
when Michelle was saying about having a backup plan, and another thing too is you can think about
Editing.
having, in our
This whole
family,
series
all
will be
Michelle
I know
and
what you're
myself
saying.
and Michelle's dad, my husband, we're all in the
Actually, not that
entertainment
bad.
industry, but we all are quite diverse, so we
Yeah.
do a lot of different things at the same time, from music to acting to producing
shouldn't
and
have my
directing,
fingernails.
and if you can do more things and you can do sort of complementary things, a lot of times those things do cross over. So Michelle,
Just have one thing.
it's harder when you're
Really
just
hard.
really focused on one thing, but Michelle does on-screen acting, she does theater acting, she's a singer, and the singing really helped with the voiceover because she's been casted, and in movies too, she's been cast in a number of roles that required her to be a singer, so the fact, that she can do all those things really makes her her ability to book work much greater because there's a lot more projects that she'll be a suitable fit for. So that's another way too, is to just think about what else can I do that's related, and it'll all enhance each other, and that way you never know which thing is the thing that
Trying to
might
make
go
one this way
first.
so it's between this guy's head and the other
Go
guy.
ahead.
Nah. I got him.
Whoever has somebody have the microphone there? Oh, I thought, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I saw you go there. Okay, go ahead.
That's not a problem. It's probably
Guy looks like Roar.
It
It does.
It's a refreshing
You're
change.
standing out in the crowd.
Yes, and off the edge of the crowd. Side point. So, as you were just saying about singing, I know I'm an aspiring voice actor, and I'd like to, and I have a pretty decent range when it comes to speaking, and I can go up relatively high. However, my problem is my singing voice is very much a bass baritone. In fact, I have an easier time singing the Russian national anthem than the Canadian one because it was written for a bass vocalist. So I was just wondering, because singing is sort of a very different way of using your voice from speaking, do you have any tips on how people like me who are kind of stuck at the extreme end or one range can maybe bring my voice up a little bit so I can get the tenor parts? Because a lot of Western music tends to be written for the tenor because, my ex was a music major and she explained this to me at one point that it's something to do with the bass is taken by the bass note, you've got the melodies, the high part, and you want to have the voice in the middle so that it doesn't obscure the part.
Well, let's let Gabe answer this.
First of all, can I just say that I am jealous of how high you can lift your eyebrow, because I can't do
For the record, let's just say this. The trade-off is I can't move this one. So the biggest problem is that more often than not I get accused of being sarcastic because all I can do is this. And people are like, hey, it's just like, no, I'm being serious about this. I know you're being serious about this. I can't.
Okay, well, as far as
I was already thinking
mics
about it.
go quieter with, as far as
Take it out of there.
yeah, actually, marvelous. Well, as far as raising your voice goes, so for the last 3 years, I was stationed in Yokosuka, Japan as the lead singer for the 7th Fleet Band, and we would tour around Asia and stuff like that. And yeah, I actually had a lot of trouble with all these modern songs that we did. We did top 40 stuff, and you know, Bruno Mars and all these guys. It's really annoying to do, you know. But I find I developed a few techniques that work for me, and I've never actually had anyone else try them. But before you actually sing in those ranges, it actually helps to just work on making noises in those ranges. To try to get to the really high stuff, I started going like this. Oh, who do you think you is? Who do you think you is, girlfriend? Don't make me pussy formation. But then, like, you turn that you find that spot, and you start singing, oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah, 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 yeah. You know, just kind of, I don't know, it's a mix. Yeah, and so I kind of found out that I had this middle voice, that there's not just my lower range, and then my falsetto, which already sounds there's a middle voice, and it took some time to find, but really, I guess it just pushed through the fact that the first couple times you try to sing in that range, it's going to be really weird. And also, don't strain. That's something that I did when I would try to get up higher. If you actually relax, it's easier. I don't know. But it's, I mean, I can sympathize because I naturally, I actually think your voice is lower than mine.
Pretty sure. The other thing I've noticed is that particularly when, I don't know how long it's the collared shirt, I should probably stop wearing those too. But I noticed that particularly when you're singing in the lower registers and then you begin moving it up, there's that break point between the two voices.
Yes.
Yeah. Any tips on ways that you could potentially smooth that out?
Yes. In fact, exactly that. Do it over and over again. See, I'll show you. I'll do it. Go. And the first couple times you're gonna go. Go back and forth. Even if you have to go.
That's how we imagine Professor McGonagall lashing it. Ooh, Mr. Potter, ooh. Oh, practical, transfigure you, Mr. Potter, into pocket watch. Therefore, one of you would be on team. Ooh.
Thank you. No, thanks very much.
No problem.
And one other little thing to add to that too is that you're talking about singing or the crossover with the voiceover, is if you do come up with voices and you are interested in singing, then the next thing is to try to imagine how you take that voice, how would that character sound if they were singing, and try to sing in that character's voice. Yeah.
I'm actually really impressed by that.
Just had to listen to Claire's speaking voice and...
Because Michelle, Michelle sings for Sweetie Belle, so it's a different voice actor, and then she had to think about how that character, in that case it wasn't her voice, but how that character would sing, and then in that one, of course, it is her voice. So.
I mean, that one was kind of easy because Claire and I sound a lot alike, but she's kind of high pitched.
The
Yeah.
Just like
Claire is now a donkey.
She's an ass.
Next question. I'll let you pass the mic. Oh, maybe I don't know. Is the line easier for you? You guys should do it. You decide what's easiest.
Okay. My question is about getting an agent. When you're sending out your demos and sending out your resume, trying to get representation, what's the best way to format the email to ensure that they actually look at it and they actually listen to your demos?
That is a good question. I would say to keep it fairly brief. If it's a long letter, it's not likely they're going to read it because they're really busy. I think, actually, Gabe's really good at this, putting some personality into your writing so that it has something that grabs them right away and it actually doesn't sound too serious or too business, like too formal.
Cold.
Yeah, cold, yeah.
It comes across as cold because I know professionalism is important, but at the same time, if you're in an industry where you want to entertain people, I think it's good to show the people who could potentially, send you out, to people who hire you, that you have that inherently.
Make sure it's well written though, that, check for spelling errors, grammar errors, because it doesn't represent people that well if it's, if it's not written well. I mean, and ideally, ideally you can follow up, try to follow up with phone calls. Sometimes they won't take phone calls, but if you can try the email. You can also try an actual package where you have that sent to the agency. If you're doing a workshop and it goes really well, and when you get to the point where the people running the workshop are saying you're ready to be doing this, you can also ask them if they could help you, if they have any agents to recommend, because if they are really feeling like you're ready for that, they may have some people that they would help you get into the door with, Did that help? A bit vague. Sorry. What were some of the things you put in that email? What were some of the things you put in that email to an industry person where you showed it to me? You just like some of the funny bits that you put in there.
I don't remember. I just said really.
You were going to bring something about cookies and.
Oh yeah. So should I bring liquid energy or liquid caffeine?
Yeah.
I don't remember now.
I know. It was just it showed some sense of humor, and it was smartly written, and it was good.
Thank you. I thought it sounded pretty stupid.
Okay. Who's next?
I could have said something.
I refrained. You called that. Hi there.
Okay. This is not so much about the voice acting itself, but about kind of the setup. If you don't have a professional recording studio, what should you use in terms of microphone? Or I heard some people say you put styrofoam on the walls to absorb the echo or things like that.
That's a really good question.
Other tips like that, maybe?
Yeah, both
curtains.
Yeah.
Experiencing that. There's some really great condenser mics that are USB interface. You don't have to get preamps or anything. That cuts down on a lot of the equipment, a lot of the cost. The mic I use is the Audio-Technica AT2020. It's an $80 condenser mic, and it's got wonderful sound. It's good for singing and voice acting.
I know exactly the one he's talking about too.
The simplest thing to do, even if you don't have foam on the walls, is if you have a heavy blanket or something, you can cover. I've done it before. Cover yourself with the blanket and the mic and talk like this, and just hope no one walks in on you and goes.
Experiences of me delivering a really serious line, like, she's gonna die, isn't she? Knock, knock, knock. And my mom's like, hey, Jess, what do you want for dinner? I'm like, Mom, I'm recording. Because it's funny, you can't see outside, so sometimes I have to bring a script in under the blanket with me, and then I'm recording, and I have a script, and it's very tiny.
I'd love to get a video of that.
Or kind of on a similar note, is there a way to soundproof the wall so you don't get noise from the outside? Because I have 5 dogs, and
Well, I don't. Well, but you can certainly buy. There's like you can buy things that are intended for studio walls, like insulation tiles, acoustic tiles, and they are expensive. You can also, though, just even the kind of foam. What's that kind of eggshell foam?
Eggshell foam?
It's in the
egg crate.
Egg
crate. Yeah, egg carton thing.
Yeah, it looks like egg carton.
That's what I
made of foam. That absorbs a lot of sound. That's pretty inexpensive. What's that?
You mean like the foam sleeping pad that you put over top of your
Yeah, those kinds of things because of the.
Oh, like the ones with the.
Is that what they're called?
You're talking about like the one that Dad has on his door.
But even like a
Is that
closet
his door?
with clothes.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, just anything to absorb something, bounce around.
Yeah. Give yourself time though if you're in a closet because I'll run out of air sometimes.
Yeah,
I tried to use my closet as one once and I went for like an hour or two and someone was directing me and I was like, I feel lightheaded. And she's like, are you in a closet? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, you should breathe normal air for a while.
Yeah, open the door one time. You know what else there are? I don't know how much they cost, and I don't think they're cheap, but they're a lot cheaper than building an entire studio. You can now buy portable recording booths that you can just set up in your house. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Michael Lee.
Is it
How
like
much are they?
recording in a box?
They're like $1,000. Is that what you said? Yeah.
I mean,
Okay, so
It's like- it's
as I
like-
say, cheaper than
Start up-
building an entire studio, but not as cheap as singing in your closet.
Like,
So.
in the movies where they have like a little tiny jewelry box. And you press
Or whatever
the
else you do in your
button
closet.
You just got a recording booth right there.
If you're just getting started though and you don't want to blow 1,000 on it yet, what I did is I got a box, like a cardboard box. I lined it with pyramid foam, and then that's my box. Like,
Is that what it's
it works
called,
fine.
pyramid foam?
I use pyramid foam. It's
I
shaped like
I
pyramid, so
don't
it's
know which
different.
one you're talking about. Chicken foam. I don't know.
It's all kinds of foam. Just look at all the foam.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi there.
Hi. When you voice the character on a show, can you take that voice and use that voice outside the show or lend that voice to a fan animation?
That's a good question. For My Little Pony, they own my character, but they don't own my voice.
Well,
So
for
I could-
all characters on
Yes.
series TV like that.
I was just using it.
Yeah.
And I could use that voice for another project if they wanted it to be the similar type of voice, but they could not use the same character because Hasbro owns the pony. And that said, though, if it was a fan animation, I still couldn't use the voice because it would be Apple Boom. And also they often don't allow us to interact with, no, not interact, but take part in some fan animations. It's all sort of, it's under contract, and it's kind of a gray area, and it just, yeah, and also some.
They can't take
some
those
productions
characters
are
and
a lot-
do their own thing or do it outside of, like she said, the company owns the character.
Some productions are a lot more strict than others.
Yeah.
Hasbro happens to be quite strict, so.
I've gotten to use, if many of you have seen Pokemon Bridged, Ash's hat has some sort of a voice like this, and it's really weird, and I don't even know what I'd use this for. But skits, Anime Next is our home con in New Jersey, and we do skits every year, and I was able to wear a banana suit and use that voice for something, so that was interesting.
Banana suit?
Yeah, it's the pregnancy prevention banana from 2012. Oh,
Is that the
God,
thing from
that
that
was
video? Oh, banana.
Hi there.
It's a question for Ms. Nowack. I got two questions for you. One is to know how you came across the opportunity to do the voice for Vinyl Scratch, and also how you came up with the voice in the first place.
Sure. My first time voicing vinyl was Rob Bob is one of the main writers for Alligator in the Tub Productions, who did Cupcake Time, Web Time, all that. And he was a fan of Pokemon Bridged. So he added me on Skype one day, and we just started talking, because like, it's the stereotype where all fan creators know each other. We kind of do. So we met each other, and he was like, hey, you like ponies, right? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I wrote a script for something. You want to take a look at it? And I was like, yeah. And he sent me the script for Epic Cupcake Time. And I was like, oh, dude, this is going to be awesome. You got to do this. And so he did, and it went over really well, so he wrote Pie Time. And he showed me that script too, and I was like, yeah, this is great. Oh, vinyl scratch. I know nothing about the character at this point. I know nothing about this horse, but I'm like, yeah, that's, you know, I've never gotten to voice a pony, so if you want to throw her a line, I'd be totally down for that. And he was like, yeah, actually, wow, yeah, your voice would really fit for her. And I didn't know anything about her, so I was like, oh, okay, sure. And so they threw her a line, and I was like, so what do you want for this character? And he was like, just be you. And I was like, I've never done that for a role. He said, no, seriously, it is you. You just be yourself and it'll be fine. So I did it, everyone went bonkers. And then they wrote one time. And for coming up with the voice, it was good because Vinyl is like obviously the closest voice to my original. Well, Officer Jenny's down here, but Vinyl is sort of like cooler. And she's like, I'm awesome all the time, kind of. So I was able to, Vinyl is me, but a lot cooler and a lot more confident and smoother. So it was one of the easier voices to get into because we have similar personalities and we're like, yeah, hardcore. So that's a great description of a voice. Yeah, hardcore, yeah. But it was sort of something that went over time, but I only had wub time to come up with the voice sort of thing. But, you know, the lines and everything I was able to draw from personal experience and from the character and combine them into this mesh that became Vinyl.